Well, greetings, everybody. We're live for Vaccines Revealed. Great to be with you all. This has been a wild ride for the past 3 or 4 weeks, actually for the past few months. But as we launched Vaccines Revealed into the world and people started coming on board, it's been really quite extraordinary. I'm coming to you right now, incidentally, from my hotel room in Sydney, Australia. I'm in the middle of a trip. I just got to Australia yesterday, so I'm a little jet lagged, but I'm feeling pretty good because I'm here with you right now. I also want to apologize in advance. I know that there's some people having problems with getting the email for the link. I've got our tech people looking at that right now, but I know that a lot of people also did get the link and we posted it, and I could see, wow, the numbers are jumping up and climbing. So somebody's got the link because there's a bunch of people coming on board right now. We decided that we wanted to do this live event and have a direct and live connection and communication with the audience. This will also be recorded, but so many questions and comments. I mean, if you look at the Facebook threads from the varying episodes that we've aired over the past week and a half or so, and the comments that people have been making, the questions they've been making, it really seemed appropriate for us to reach out and be with the audience in a live interactive scenario. Because up till now, we have had the experience of saying, hey, we're putting up these episodes, hope you like them. And there's been sort of this conversation that's been going on around that, but nothing that there's this direct or live interaction. So I have a lot of experience doing global broadcasts on using the YouTube live technology. I feel like it really helps to take the tribal experience or the communal experience when people are interested in the subject to a higher level. And that's exactly what we're looking to do right now. So I'm going to have a couple of preparatory remarks that we'll get into. But what you all should know as you're coming online right now is that I want you on the Facebook thread. There's a Facebook thread below the viewing box that you see. And on that thread, I'd love for you to just say your name. You know, hey, your first name is fine. Hey, this is so-and-so, and I'm hanging out from such and such a place. I just want to know where you are, you know, your name and where you are. We'll give you a shout out. You know, there might be so many of you. I don't know if we'll be able to shout out all of you, but we'll shout out as many as we can. And also, if you have a question or a comment, that would be a good time to post it. We might not, and I'm going to apologize in advance, you know, our time frame, and I want to keep it as strict as I can, is going to be 1 hour. We might not be able to get to every single question and comment, but we really will do our level best to get through them and to bond with you, to connect with you, to interact with you, etc. You have seen that there are well over 100,000 shares on just Facebook relative to what we're doing with Vaccines Revealed. We've had millions of visitors, you know, and served up tens of millions of pages on our website through this process, and it's taken on a life of its own. Things that we could not have imagined when we first got involved in starting this project. For almost 30 years, this has been a serious issue for me. The moral issue surrounding forced vaccination, the lack of scientific integrity relative to vaccinations, the fraud and deception and corruption, which is now well documented. If you've seen the series, you know about this, relative to vaccination. So there's many issues here that need to be brought to light because it really affects everyone. People everywhere have to make this decision: vaccinate, not vaccinate, vaccinate my kids, not vaccinate my kids. What are my rights? What are my legal rights? What if people want to force this upon me? You know, I'm in a country right now in Australia. I'm really thrilled that they let me in because they have kept people out who have an anti-vaccine stance. And it's even if you question vaccines, maybe your stance is an anti-vaccination, maybe it is. I think that you know, there's fraud and there's corruption. We'd like to point that out. You should know, you know, the facts. They really are pretty militant about that here. Chiropractors in Australia are not even permitted to talk about vaccines in their office. Also true in Canada, where they're just literally trying to squash free speech. They don't want people asking questions. They just want them to get in line and get their vaccines and go on with their life without questioning authority, if you will. And it's an intolerable circumstance. So anyway, I'm here in Australia right now. I'll be here for about the next week or so, and then I'll go up to Bali, and then I'll head back to the States. And I have to tell you that the amount of people globally who've gotten involved in this project has been staggering. It's unlike anything that I've ever worked on before when I look at the amount of force and gravity that's surrounding it. So we're really thrilled to be with you. Again, I see more and more people are coming on. Wow, a lot of people are coming on. So again, that's your name, where you're hanging out from. If you have a question or a comment, we'll get to those questions and comments. And really just feel very blessed to be here with you, and also feel very fortunate that there's this huge community out there that has now been brought together and is taking a stand here, and we really do need to take a stand on this issue. It's something that in my own consciousness that, my conscience will not allow me not to do something about this on a higher scale than I have before. I've spoken out before. I've been in documentaries, radio shows, TV shows, speaking to this issue. But I finally, with looking at what was going on in the world and looking at the damage that's being done and looking at the fraud and corruption, deception that's involved in this subject, it was just time now to organize something on a much more higher scale, on a mass scale, that can have a significant impact, and it is going to have a significant impact. It already is doing so. One of the things, if you've been watching, as you've been tracing along here, is the interview in episode 3, I think it's episode 3, with Bobby Kennedy Jr., Robert F. Kennedy Jr., literally 3 days after that interview, he met with, at the time, who was President-elect Trump, now President Trump, to look at forming a committee on vaccine safety and scientific integrity over the malfeasance that's going on in corrupt organizations like the CDC, where they're hiding things. They don't want to let people know the truth. They have an agenda that is not public, and it literally the ravages of this agenda, looking at how it's impacting kids and families, is something that's unconscionable. It's vile. So, so there's a lot that we've exposed through this process, this massive experiment that they call vaccines, and it's something that I think everybody in the world needs to know about. So I hope you're sharing Vaccines Revealed. I hope you're letting other people know. I also want to congratulate you on taking a stand, because what I do know is that there are people, that every person, most people who speak out on vaccines face violent opposition from family members. I literally was just talking to somebody who's been watching the program, who bought the program, and said that they have family members who will not talk to them because they made a choice not to vaccinate their kids. Literally, they're just saying, we won't even have a conversation with you anymore. You must be some kind of a horrible parent. So being armed with this information makes it very difficult for people to try to have their condemnation towards anyone who would question vaccines, because if you look at the truth and you look at the facts and you look at the credibility of the people that we brought to bear on this issue, it's really hard for anybody to say, well, there's maybe no argument here that vaccines are proven safe and effective. Can't make that argument without and know about what we're doing here in Vaccines Revealed. So very, very exciting stuff. And the other thing I'll just say as we're starting out here is that everybody in this realm lined up with us. The movies, Vaxxed, Trace Amounts, Vaccine Syndrome, which we were able to do a premiere. That movie's never been seen before, looking at anthrax in the military and the devastating effects that has had. Other groups that have been around this have really gotten involved and lined up. So I want to say that this thing got much bigger than myself, and Dr. Beau Pierce, who's on with me, Jeff Hayes, who also was involved in the formation of the project. When you look at what we did initially, and what we started with, and then you look at all the support that came around us and how it all lined up, it's something that had a mission that was bigger than any individual person, and something that mattered in the world. And literally, I feel like every day that we're getting this out there in the world, there's children's lives and families that are being positively, the trajectory of their life experience is positively affected, because we had people lined up like you and like others who shared this message, got aligned, and the people who support us by being in the program, by being in the episodes of Vaccine Revealed, that's literally had a massive impact on lives. And we received many comments to that effect. So anyway, we're very heartened that you're here. We're happy to share this experience. We've been working day and night now for right through the holidays for some period of time to bring this to you, and it's been the most rewarding work of my career. So before we jump into Krista, welcome you everybody. I just want to give Dr. Beau Pierce, the CEO of CircleOfDocs.com, an opportunity to welcome people and say a few words.
Well, thank you, Dr. Gentempo, and thank you for, number one, putting us out there and putting this movement. And that's really what this is about. This is about a movement. When we started to put our heads around this and say, can we create something that what we call make a dent in the universe by doing something that has a bigger purpose than we do? And what we found was that this community, that our world needs this message, and right now is the perfect time for this message to be delivered. You know, I would like to echo what you had to say about everything somewhat falling together in alignment, which is very interesting. Because as you know, and for people that we can give you guys a little bit of insight as kind of how this whole thing kind of came together. But, you know, like Dr. Gentempo said, everything literally fell into perfect alignment. And it was an absolute blessing. When we started to reach out to people to say, hey, we're doing this project. Are you interested in coming aboard? The floodgates literally opened wide. And without you guys being there, number one, helping us to get in front of those right people and those audiences, and also for opening the doors and pressing the share button. You know, I don't know the exact numbers, but I do know this: we've had millions and millions of page views, hundreds of thousands of Facebook shares, thousands of comments. Matter of fact, I was just talking to Dr. Gentempo yesterday, and I said, have you read some of the stories that are in these Facebook comments? They are literally flooring. You know, when we started this project, we had one goal in mind. And that goal was to bring this information to light and to save what we call one child's life. If we did this entire thing and literally one parent saw it and said, that's what happened to my child, or better yet, a young parent that may be pregnant or just had a baby and is really debating if they should vaccinate or not, we wanted to be able to educate them so they could make an informed decision. So the first thing I want to say is thank you to our amazing community. You guys have gone above and beyond. We tip our hat to you, and we are blessed to be here and to serve you.
Awesome. Thank you, Beau. And we feel very blessed to be able to be with you, to serve you, to disseminate this information. We've gotten many messages from people saying, you know, watch your back. You know, there's a lot of, there's an old saying, you got to be careful whose rice bowls you're breaking. Obviously, we are, you know, we're going after some pretty big players and multi-billion-dollar industry, government organizations, et cetera. The level of corruption and deception goes up very, very high. And there's, you know, billions, and not even just billions, but many tens of billions of dollars at stake on an annual basis relative to all this. And if you watched, you know, any or most or parts of the series, you would see the insights of the factual documentation related to this. So, but you know, unbridled truth was our first core value relative to this project. We started with our list of core values, our premise, and our statement of purpose. We've stuck to it every step of the way, and I think that's why we've landed where we are, in a place that people around the world have gotten engaged, and I think we're making a huge difference. So. Now I'll please introduce Krista, who is co-hosting with us tonight. Let her welcome some people. Again, if you're out there, please, your name, where you're hanging out from, if you have a question and comment, and we're going to get to as many as we possibly can. Thanks for joining us. Go ahead, Krista, and let's welcome some people.
All right, well, it's great to be with everybody this evening. Looking forward to a very vibrant session here tonight. The Facebook page is lighting up from the minute we got started here. I've had to just kind of pause and not even refresh the page because I'm losing the first people I wanted to welcome. So I'm just going to kick in and start welcoming people from the beginning. We'll welcome Larry out of Los Angeles, Paula Sperry out of Cape Cod, Massachusetts, Joyce Laidlaw joining us. We also have Nina Anderson out of the Sacramento area. We have Beverly Stone joining us, Catherine Parr out of Austin, Texas. We have Heather Snyder out of Okinawa, Japan. We also have Dr. Chuck McMillan. Just Chuck McMillan. We have Kevin Paul. We have Gina Foltz, Dominic Anko, Jamie McKinney. We have Julie Nichols, Ohio Vaccine Freedom, Sabina Hudzik, Hayden Barnes, Amy Garish. The list goes on and on and on. So if we didn't get to you, please continue to check in. We will do another round of welcoming everybody, but we have a lot of questions to get to tonight, so we're looking forward to diving into those as well. So if you are outside on the Facebook thread, please check in, put your name, any questions or comments that you have for Dr. Gentempo or Dr. Beau Pierce. We've had a lot of questions out there. Where do I post my Q&A? Post your questions right there. I'll be fielding those throughout the broadcast tonight.
Perfect. Let's jump right in and welcome everybody. I know there's many more of you out there, hundreds of you have already joined, so it's pretty robust. But let's jump into the questions and comments.
All right, I'm going to start off with a question that came up from a lot of different people. So people want to know, what is the genesis of Vaccines Revealed, and how did you get Robert F. Kennedy Jr. involved in this?
I'll go first. So it's a great question. I didn't wake up one morning and decide vaccines is a cause I should be speaking to. I'm a chiropractor. My basic journey is I started chiropractic practice back in the mid 1980s. I investigated the whole vaccine issue quite a bit actually as a student and when I got into practice. I ended up developing diagnostic technologies, I had patents on those technologies, and I ended up being in the business side of healthcare for now almost the past 30 years. And so I've been a serial entrepreneur. I've started 16 companies, and people would tell you that people that knew me would tell you that I've often said that I'm so heated about this vaccine issue, and I've spoken out on it whenever I could, that one day I might just retire into that issue, meaning I would basically say, okay, I've had my my business enterprises. I've liquidated them. I'm now in that what might be referred to as a retirement phase, which I'll never fully retire. You have to have a purpose to keep living your life. Fact, the average person dies 5 years after retirement, so I figure I'll keep working so I'll stay alive. But anyway, what happened was, Beau and I have a business together called circleofdocs.com. I have about 8 holdings in my holding company right now. That's one of them that we're invested in. And about mid this year, Beau and I were having our quarterly review, looking at our reports, etc. And I asked a question. I said, "What are people reading most?" And he said to me, "Well, we have about 1.5 million people that have read our Gardasil article." I said, "What?" On our site, which is directed toward natural or holistic healthcare professionals, and even more specifically chiropractors, an article that got 3,000 or 4,000 reads would be considered a pretty heavily read article because it's to a narrow group of people in kind of a specialty area. So we weren't really promoting to the general public. We didn't really promote the article. 1.5 million people read one article on one vaccine called Gardasil, and we started looking at some of the other articles on vaccines that we posted, and they also by themselves went viral. So, Beau and I discussed it and said, it's clear there's such a hunger for this information and a need for it, and also clear that we have the right contacts, people, knowledge, business experience, etc., to do this and do it right. And that's how it all fell into place. I don't know if there's anything else that you'd add to that piece of the story, Beau, and then I'll tell them about RFK Jr.
I think just to echo what you say, when we started Circle of Docs, it really was geared towards more the chiropractor and the natural health practitioner. And we used to publish a lot of articles having to do with practice life, research, technique, the latest gadgets, what have you. And one day in our conversation, we said, we should start posting on the questions that doctors are receiving from their patients on a daily basis. So we did a poll, and one of the highest returns of questions was vaccinations. So I put together with our team a few articles, and we tested them. We put them out into the community. And like you said, the Gardasil article, crazy viral, 1.5 million shares. We put a couple other articles talking about looking at vaccinated versus unvaccinated children. Again, super viral, millions of page views and millions of shares. And that's when we came back, and like you said, we had that conversation of, hey, look, we are a small knit community, 50,000 chiropractors, 100,000 holistic natural health providers are on our platform, and look what the response has been. So this isn't just doctors sharing this. Now this is the patients of those doctors sharing it, and they are very hungry for more of this information. It's a question that's on the top of their mind, and that's when you looked at me and said, we got to do something about it. And we almost smiled at the same time, said, we need to do some sort of like online summit or docu-series, and then that literally got the ball rolling from there. And I think between our wives, we looked at each other and we said, wow, we really have something that potentially could be very special, and let's just get to work.
So then it became a magic carpet ride once we made the commitment. And with every business I start, and I've started many, I start basically with creating the soul of the business, which means what are the core values of this business? Meaning, what does it stand for? What's the premise upon which we're building the business? what's the statement of purpose? Why does this business or this mission or this initiative, why does it exist? And we answered those questions, and then we started to go to work. So we started organizing assets. Down the road from that, I know that I'd been in a documentary called Bought, where I was pretty outspoken on the vaccine issue, as well as many other people. And we approached Jeff Hayes and basically said, hey, there's a lot of very valuable content you have from some very powerful and intelligent and well-spoken, people that we'd like to use in this mission. So at that point, Jeff Hayes joined us and said, hell yes, I believe in this, and I would like to find that wider audience so people can see the work we did in creating those interviews, etc. Which you've seen our stuff, very high quality all the way down the line. These are the broadcast quality videos, not Skype, record Skype interviews. It's the real deal. So then that was a stage, and then my journey took me to interview some people. So next thing you know, it's about when you get to a mission, that has a purpose that's bigger than you, the best thing you can do is surrender to it. And when I say surrender, I don't mean out of weakness saying I give up. It's surrendering to it, saying I'm going to put aside my preconceived notions. This thing is going to take me on a ride, and I'm going to go with it, and I'm not going to do anything to try to shut it down, inhibit it, interfere it. When things show up, I'm just going to go, because this has basically got its own heartbeat. It's got its own vision, its own reason to exist. And so I started getting on airplanes and going to different places. And one of the places that it landed me was to meet a gentleman who you've seen in the series in his 4-part interview was Sayer G. And Sayer is the founder of greenmedinfo.com, and a very eloquent spokesperson, very intelligent individual who speaks very passionately about this issue. And we had an amazing day of interviewing down there. I hired, had a hired film crew, went down to his home, sat down, and I interviewed him, and it was just like sparks flying. And if you saw the interview, you know what I'm talking about. And Sayer said, somebody who would have a very keen interest on this is Robert Kennedy Jr. And I know about his activism, especially with Mercury, etc. But Sayer said, let me connect you with his assistant and see where it goes. And sure enough, I mean, here's the thing about that Kennedy interview, which of course was a highlight of the whole program in a significant way, and continues to be because of now him chairing a committee, or it's being discussed with President Trump that he chair a committee on vaccine safety and scientific integrity. And if you saw the interview, Bobby Kennedy Jr. really knows these issues. So we were 4 days away from launching. And, I was able to cancel another trip I was on because they said, hey, you can do it on this Saturday. Now, Tuesday we're launching. Saturday I could be in Santa Monica to go to Robert Kennedy Jr.'s home in Santa Monica and to interview him. So I fly in, go to his house, hire a film crew. We do this interview, and it was the most well-organized and brilliant case surrounding this whole vaccine issue that I've ever seen. It was, if you saw that particular episode, it was jaw-dropping as far as how breathtaking it was that the dots were connected along the way like nothing I've ever seen. So anyway, and incidentally, to this very point, we're still getting messages from Robert Kennedy's team, because one of the things you probably heard him say in the interview, which is true, and now we're supporting him in every way we can, is that he's given up every other part of his career, meaning he's got a legal career where he was taking on big environmental issues and suing all the big boys and succeeding in that. This vaccine issue became so disturbing to him that he's literally taken a hiatus from all his other legal work to focus 100% of his time on this issue. And we were just having interactions today. Beau could tell you the same. Emails going back and forth on what we can do and how we're going to try to support him in taking on this issue. And so I have to tell you that it was, if I were to apply my typical rules and say, well, no, I can't do a last minute trip. No, we don't want to disrupt last minute before we were about to, launch the whole series and try to do another thing. But I said, it's Robert Kennedy Jr. They're saying there's an opening right now. We can't say no. I surrender to this process. I'm going to follow it wherever it leads. And we're going to make this something through our efforts and being a servant to the purpose of it, we're going to make it something that's going to impact the world in a big way. So, so that's, you know, kind of a little bit more of a backstory behind the Robert Kennedy Jr. Part of this equation. Same thing true with, you know, if you saw with Brian Hooker. You know, I just reached out for him out of, you know, just saying, yeah, out of the outside chance, saying, here's who we are, here's what we're doing, here's our core value statement of purpose, etc. I would really love to interview you for this thing. And if you saw Brian Hooker's interviews and his direct experience with the CDC and the recorded conversations that he has, it is pretty breathtaking and startling and disturbing. But he flew to my home in Park City, Utah, and we set up a film crew there, did those series of interviews. So it was, things just kept showing up. We had an entire program without many of the stars that you're hearing. We didn't have the movies involved in the beginning. This whole thing, like, it wasn't, you know, vaxxed, trace amounts, and vaccine syndrome, 3 movies. You know, we didn't have them, you know, in our initial planning. We didn't have Robert F. Kennedy Jr. We didn't have Brian Hooker. We didn't have a lot of this, but we still had a lot of great stuff, thinking that we can go to the public with this information. But I just said, you know, the purpose is right, and, you know, we all discussed this, you know, the partners, you know, Beau, myself, and Jeff, and I said, I'm reaching out for so-and-so, I'm reaching out for so-and-so. I have no problem funding all this. I believe in this. So we went out, and these people all just basically said yes. And I said, I'm canceling the rest of my life. I'm canceling everything else I'm doing, and I'm just getting on the magic carpet, and it's going to take me where it takes me. And this whole thing has been a wild and wicked ride for all of us. You know, and I say wicked in a thrilling way, not in a negative way, but in a very positive way. So anyway, thank you very much for that question.
Go for it.
Well, thank you all. Dr. Beau, did you want to add anything?
No, I would just like to say, you know, just to echo Patrick again, that this really just came into alignment. You know, when we started to put our framing around this, like he said, look, these are the interviews that we have to start with. And we thought that was amazing, rock solid gold right there. And then we just said, let's talk into the energy of the world, to God, and say, you know what? Hey, if we could dream up a dream team, who would it be and what would it look like? And literally everything fell in place. I remember when we were sitting down ready before the first night, we all looked at each other and we said, this could not be any more perfect. We have everybody, every big figurehead person pulling on the rope at the same time, and it's going to create a movement. We felt that as a team. And now to see the response, you know, 10 days, 12 days later now, that the movement is riding. There's a wave of energy that's behind this. And we are so proud that you guys have all joined with us to continue that movement forward. So we just want to say thank you for that. Now, Kristen, next question.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to take a moment. I'll welcome Dr. Donna Starring joining us out of Utah, Dr. Fran Palmer at DC out of Colorado. We have Cookie out of Bronx, New York, Julie Davis out of South Texas. We have Jeffrey Roystater out of Cary, North Carolina. And then I've got to jump to a couple comments that were posted. We have Rana Alexander out of Gaylord, Michigan, saying, so very thankful for you sharing the truth and exposing the lies. Please help us connect with others so we can begin healing. Then we have a comment from Rebecca Norris, who says, this would be a great way to retire, Dr. Patrick. Do it. We need you. And then one from Tara McDermott, who says, so grateful to have so many of you brave enough to take on the corruption and help protect our children and families.
Thank you very much for those comments. I know that some people think that maybe it doesn't matter, you know, if you make the comment or you share your heart a little bit around this, but it does, and it is literally the fuel that drove us, was seeing just how people were responding and how grateful people were to see that, you know, this type of an event organized, and how validated some people felt who were told they were crazy for thinking the way they do, or maybe they had a child that was vaccine injured and they were told they were crazy for thinking that vaccines did this. But I got to tell you, there were a lot of, you know, right through the holidays, a lot of, you know, 12, 14-hour days on this project, and flights and lack of sleep and everything else to pull together and deliver it the way that we did. And I just want all of you to know that those comments that were coming through along the way, especially when we got attacked that first night, you know, we were launching, we built up to that launch. It was very exciting. There was all this stuff going on. We had the surge because that was the day that it was announced that Robert F. Kennedy met with Donald Trump on this whole committee, this vaccine safety committee, and it was rising. And right before we're getting to launch episode 1, there was an attack on our servers. They call it direct denial of service attack, where basically they organize a way to get many server requests just bombarding your servers in an effort to to get them to fail. And that, combined with the people who really were trying to do it, it caused our servers, they slowed down and failed. Fortunately, Dr. Beau was very nimble on his feet, and something that we expected, because people said you're going to get attacked, it's kind of likely, but we were able to use the COD site as an alternate site that the attackers wouldn't be able to couldn't move as fast as we could. So what we did is we literally just moved to an alternate site to broadcast episode 1, and then sent everybody an email saying, hey, we had to move over to here. We posted on Facebook, etc. And we're off and running. And then we literally, since I'm the guy who's kind of in charge of the financial side of this project, and to get everything done right, it increased the budget 6-fold on the servers to make them somewhat bulletproof against those types of attacks. So we had no problems after that, because I know that there's still people gunning for us. So those were nights where we're getting 2-3 hours of sleep, 4 hours of sleep, having to work on stuff the next day, pivot in a moment because of the stuff that was going on. So but what's my point? My point is that your comments, your encouragement, your showing up, your sharing, these things were the fuel that kept us ignited, kept us going. And if that wasn't there, it would have been a very difficult challenge to rise to be able to get this out in the world in the way that we did. So thank you for all those kind comments.
Yes, so thank you, everybody checking in outside and letting us know you're out there with us. Sorry if I don't get to everybody. There's so many people checking in. It's so great to see the interaction out there, but I'm going to try to get to as many as I can. So with that, I'm going to jump to a question that came from Cheryl Wenlent. She says, what do you suggest for us who have had chickenpox and to help our immunity so we do not get shingles, besides finding some children who are having chickenpox? I do not see or understand if that shingles shot had aluminum or mercury in it. Do you suggest the shot? We are seniors and my grandchildren have already had the chickenpox.
So you might have seen Gary Goldman's interview on this, and I would definitely see that interview if you haven't. Incidentally, as late as today, or as recently as today, I've had people who are writing me or private messaging me saying, hey, I want, is there a way to buy the series? I want to be able to get the information. I missed many of the episodes, etc. And I'm like, boy, I thought we made that kind of clear that you could own Vaccines Revealed. So if any of you are watching and you don't own it, right under the video page or the video rectangle where you're seeing me right now, there's I think a yellow button down there that says something to the effect of join the mission and own Vaccines Revealed, something like that. But you can press that button or scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page. I think there's information there. So if any of this you need to get or would like to own, and I'm not here to try to convince people that they should support the mission by the program, etc. We just want to make it available should you want it. So you can get it there, because you're gonna have to revisit some of these things. I am definitely not a vaccine scientist that's expert in every single aspect of vaccines. I have a great general knowledge of it. I've interviewed many of the experts. I've got so I've got a lot of inside information. And really, if anything, my expertise is in philosophy and looking at the moral issues surrounding this whole thing. And if you get into the political philosophy and the implications of civil liberties and inalienable individual rights, etc. So, but now, having said all that, as far as chickenpox vaccine, here's the whole thing, and this is why I tell people: you guys get the information, make a decision for yourself. But first of all, from a childhood perspective, chickenpox is a normal, quote unquote, normal childhood infection, meaning it's a part of your rite of passage as you're growing into adulthood. That you can go through that process, and that it builds and strengthens your immune system. When you look at the vaccine and you look at Gary Goldman's interview, who was a scientist who worked in that vaccine, it's pretty disturbing, as far as the ingredients of the vaccine, the lack of safety and efficacy, et cetera. So for me, I am not a fan of the chickenpox vaccine. Now, your concern is you're a senior, might you get exposed, might you get shingles? I think, here's the point I think everybody needs to understand. Life is conditional, which means there are risks in life. And you have to weigh those risks and look to mitigate them. So, number one, I am not, how can I put it? I'm unconvinced that the vaccines for shingles or chickenpox, but if in this case for shingles, are effective. Now, they might tell you they are, your doctor might tell you they are, and incidentally, I think your doctor believes it when they say it, but I don't think that they've really done looked at the data, looked at the research. And even if it was effective, which I don't think it is, even if it was effective, what's the downside risk of what's in that vaccine? What adjuvants are there? What's toxic in there that even if you thought it was effective, well, you prevented shingles, but did you create other health problems for yourself? So for me, I believe immunity is built. It's built through your lifestyle choices, and that vaccines are not a shortcut to getting immunity, but quite frankly, they're quite the opposite, something that can actually affect your health in unintended ways with unintended consequences that in many cases, I mean, listen, when somebody gets vaccinated and they're dead 48 hours later, or they have severe reactions, or they detach and fall into autism, or they are onto the spectrum, et cetera. Those are the obvious things, but there's many non-obvious things that occur that maybe are protracted over time, that are chronic in nature, where people are saying, geez, that's kind of weird. Geez, and it's strange that you're having this kind of autoimmune dysfunction or disorder or syndromes that are affecting you. And it's like they kind of look at it like it's good luck or bad luck. They're not tracing it back to the fact that you were assaulted with vaccines into your system that caused your body to react in a certain way that disturbed your nervous system, disturbed your immune system. The body's not properly recognizing itself in the environment. There's toxins that have gone in. They've gone past, in some cases, the blood-brain barrier. There's such a constellation of things that form that maybe they're not acute and dramatic, but they're chronic and debilitating. So obviously you have to make the call. I'm not your doctor. I'm not the person that knows you well enough to be able to give you everything, every particular characterization of what the risk versus benefits are for you personally. But in a general sense, I do not think that, especially the elderly, I believe they're vulnerable just like children, like infants are, when you start introducing stuff that's so dramatic and toxic into their system. So I hope that answers your question, or at least gives you more insight into it. And we do have a good conversation with Gary Goldman on the chickenpox vaccine, and he's got very strong direct research knowledge relative to that, and you might want to rewatch that one, and from there it should help you form your positions.
Well, thank you very much for the question, Cheryl. We'll now jump to a question that comes from Dr. Janice Sage. She says, it appears that most, if not all, of the presenters who spoke out the facts that don't support the current vaccinations and vaccine schedules are ridiculed, or at the very least, highly questioned on the internet sites. How do we have an intellectual, calm discussion with someone who is throwing around terms like baby killer? Can we even have that discussion at all with them?
You want to go first, Beau?
I think when you look at vaccinations in general, here's what we know. We know this. We know that there are risks associated with vaccination. Now, the real question is how broad and wide are those risks? It could be something as simple as a slight fever to a slight rash, all the way up to paralysis and unfortunately to death. So when we sit down and we talk to people, first off, as doctors, we always try to look at things very scientific. We also want to have a lot of facts with us. Remember, doctors talk in facts. That's the way that we are trained in school. That's the way that we're trained to read research. Now, there's always two points of view to these facts. Now, what I would suggest for your friend that is saying this to you is to be able to look at both sides of the story and make the decision for yourself. When people are coming at you like they have during this series and called us baby killers and you guys are the worst people and you guys are going to bring back the deadliest viruses that we've killed with vaccinations, I would highly suggest that they look at the entire picture. Don't look just what that doctor is shoving down your throat or what the CDC says is quote unquote true, but you need to look at the entire spectrum, dig in yourself and read, and then make a decision for yourself. Dr. Gentempo?
So the answer in my mind, in addition to what Dr. Pierce said, is that you can't have a rational conversation with an irrational human being. I've tried it. I've tried it a few times. It doesn't work. You know, so you have to decide, do you want to get into this sort of very toxic ad hominem, you know, exchange? I mean, it doesn't take long, and I've done it. It doesn't take long to make people look stupid and feel stupid, but that's not really the goal. I've had, you know, I am, you know, I have friends, very good friends actually, who are in the medical profession. One of my really close friends is a cardiothoracic surgeon, very highly regarded guy. He's also cross-trained in interventional cardiology. And we mountain bike, you know, all the time together. We ski together. I've known him for many, many years. He was the medical director for a wellness initiative I had in one of my companies some years ago. And he's a research scientist, a government-funded research scientist. And what was interesting is that we were on a bike ride this summer. It actually was the fall, I think. I mean, this is when we're, you know, into this project already. And I was telling him about it. And he's somebody that was very pro-vaccine, and because his research science degree was in, you know, immunization, or immunity. Immunizations was a big part of what he had to study. And it was interesting because, you know, he doesn't get all crazy. Oh, you're out of your mind. I mean, he understands there's risks and so on, but he thinks that on balance that the risks are worth the benefits. But when he said, you know, we got into the autism conversation, et cetera, here's the one thing that I believe, if for all of you, as far as an interactive approach toward how to sort of stop and reframe the conversation, and then going on. I just had another friend, I just had the same conversation, I'm about to explain the same thing, who was just at my home a week or two ago. And he's an interesting guy. He was the CEO of a very big company, you know, a multi-billion-dollar company. Very intelligent. You know, his world is in the background of supplements. He suffered from multiple chemical sensitivity, which was a byproduct of vaccines they got before he went to Africa. He was basically became mercury poisoned, and he was on a long journey of many years of trying to figure out what was wrong with him. Nobody knew. It was very vague. And he finally figured out that the vaccines had hurt him. So his position is that he thinks vaccines work. He thinks vaccines have eradicated disease. He thinks that, but that they're not all safe, that they're toxic. They need to be, you know, basically remanufactured to be safer and take out some of these toxic substances. But doesn't realize, you know, as most people don't from the high level, that these substances, these adjuvants, you know, like aluminum, they're put in to, you know, and preservatives they're put in there, that they're necessary in order for the vaccine to have the effect that the vaccine manufacturers want it to have. And if you watched, you learned about this throughout, you know, many of the episodes that we presented. But here's the thing for him and for my friend who's the cardiothoracic surgeon who's got a research degree in immunology. I just look at them and I say, let me ask you a question. Are you aware that it is, and this is a fact, and that, you know, this isn't he said, she said, this isn't speculative. It is factually documented that the CDC has lied about their results relative to the relationship between vaccines and autism. And that's just one. There's other things if you saw the whole, you know, our whole series. So you just need that one opening, that one crack, because they say, you know, well, Wakefield's been debunked, and you know, the CDC is found in an extensive research project that there was no statistical relationship between vaccines and autism. And I say, are you aware of the fact that there's a CDC whistleblower that has telephone recordings stating that there is a connection and the CDC hid it. And that right there, that they're caught in fraud, they're caught in a lie, in corruption. I said, so we can get into some of the actual debate, pro and con vaccine, et cetera, and the implications. But before I do, are you aware that they're lying to us? Are you aware that there is a connection between vaccines and autism, vaccines and many other diseases? And that stops them. Because here's the thing, and this is the powerful opening salvo in these debates and these arguments. It goes like this. If the institution we're trusting to give us this information, the CDC, to be impartial, who's charged with the protection of the public, saving lives, and what does it say? I was emailing back and forth during the courses with a senior scientist at the CDC, and the signature on it says saving lives and helping people, or something like that. And you know, when you look at the lies, it's really disturbing. Both of them had to stop and say, no, I wasn't aware of it. Well, it's public, it's recorded. It's not like something it's not a matter of debate. Well, I think the CDC lied. Well, I don't think they really lied. No, we have the recordings of the senior scientist in vaccines, William Thompson, who was talking to Brian Hooker, saying that we altered the data, saying that we took a whole section of the research that we did and shredded it. We were ordered by our bosses to dispose of a whole chunk of research and remove any record of it. But Thompson kept a copy, and that copy is in Congressman Posey's safe in Florida, and we're trying to get, you know, Thompson called in front of Congress. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. suing the CDC right now to produce Thompson as a witness so he can testify. The CDC is blocking him. So when you communicate this to people who have the, you're crazy, you think the earth is still flat. I mean, I've heard it all. I've been attacked. But I just bring up and say, are you aware that the CDC has been caught in a lie and misrepresentation about the safety and efficacy of vaccines? And right then they were, So you know, at that point, you can't now call me a baby killer. You know, who's a baby killer now, right? So so I'll tell you that there are some people who are just rabid nuts. And here's the logical argument from the philosophical standpoint, you know, when you look at the morality. First of all, can we agree on the fact that vaccines cause a risk? Yes, we can agree on the fact that vaccines, now some people say, well, the risk is very low. Listen, we can debate the risk, the amount of risk, but is there a risk? There is. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a vaccine court. Or otherwise, the pharmaceutical industry would be able to buy its own insurance to indemnify them against damages done as a result of vaccines. But no insurer who doesn't have a political axe to grind, all they do is actuarial work, if I can say the word, actuary work to see if there is a, you know, what the risks or proposed risks are, and then they calculate what it would cost to indemnify against those risks. Well, no insurance company in the world would indemnify a drug company for vaccines. Now, mind you, they indemnify for all these other drugs out there, which do kill people. Over 125,000 people per year die in the United States as a result of prescription drugs when they're properly prescribed because of unanticipated adverse effects that cannot be known on every patient every time. But they can get insurance for that, even though they pose risk. So imagine they can't even get insurance for vaccines. That's how risky they are. Now, the US government says we want a vaccine program, so we will indemnify these companies. It's unprecedented that we have private industry who makes billions of dollars a year to put a product into the marketplace, is indemnified by the federal government. Can you imagine I'm a business guy. I could imagine being in business, putting something out into the marketplace that has risk, making tens of billions of dollars doing it, and I don't have any liability. It's an unprecedented scenario. So if we walk down the chain of logic, it looks like this. Number one, do vaccines pose a risk? Yes. We can debate the amount of risk. I think the amount of risk is very high. Others maybe think it's very low. But one thing we can agree on is that vaccines are, there's a risk to being vaccinated. There's a risk to vaccines. We can debate the amount of risk. Number two, do high-level, well-credentialed experts disagree on the safety and efficacy of vaccines? The answer is that nobody can debate the question. Yes. Now, if you saw Vaccines Revealed, we produced dozens of them. And these people are really impressive with their pedigree and their credentials. So you might not like my experts. Okay, that's fine. But you can't say that my experts aren't well credentialed, have expertise in the area, and they think that these vaccines are risky and not efficacious, or that they don't necessarily work. So so can we at least agree that high-level experts disagree on the safety and efficacy of vaccines? So if vaccines pose a risk, and if high-level experts disagree on the safety and efficacy of these vaccines, then the conclusion is, shouldn't I have a choice as to whether or not I want to vaccinate myself or my kids? And I don't know how anybody, unless they go to an irrational place, can say, yes, you must be forced to vaccinate your kids anyway. And they'll say it's for the greater good. We have to have herd immunity. Another line of part of my language of pure bullshit. But the bottom line is then, so what you're telling me, in the United States, every country's constitution, their laws, et cetera, are a little bit different. But unless you're a fascist or a communist state, they're going to resemble the concept of individual rights. So you're telling me that in a country where I'm guaranteed unalienable individual rights, that I have to risk my kid for the greater good? Because sacrifice of the individual to the state, sacrifice of the individual to the greater good, is the morality of communism. It's the morality of fascism. It's the morality of statism. The state owns and controls your life. You have no individual rights. Your life can and will be sacrificed for the greater good. That's the political moral argument here that's at bay. So in the total answer to the question, number one, do you know that the CDC lied about its data? And not just an MMR and autism, there's many others. If you watch the interviews in the program, Number two, there is a risk. Nobody can disagree. We just disagree on the amount of risk. There is high-level expert dissension as far as the conclusions around this, and there's a lot of experts that say that vaccine safety and efficacy is not good. So that exists. There's high-level experts that disagree. Therefore, in a free society, I should have a choice whether or not I want to do it. That's the rational argument. And notice I don't have to even quote a bunch of data and research. It's just the basic morality of the circumstance. But if somebody is blind and they're just going to rant and rave and call you a baby killer, then there's really no conversation that you can have with them. That's where it really leads. So I see now, and we're going to, folks, if it's okay, and if it's okay with you, Beau and Krista, I think there were emails that for whatever reason there was technical issues and they were stopped up in the system, in the broadcast system. I'm seeing in the thousands now of people that have come on. So I think we're going to let this run a bit longer, just so that we can let people have their questions, comments, interactions to whatever degree we can. So anyway, that is that is a common question. How do I answer when somebody calls me a baby killer? Dr. Pierce talked about it, I thought, very eloquently. As a practitioner, has to deal with this in practice, and I can tell you the kind of conversations I had, which I just did, and I hope that was helpful. So Krista, what do we have next?
All right, well, thank you very much for that, Dr. Janis. And I'm now going to go to a general question. I've had a lot of comments that I've seen come through on the Facebook thread. What is the status on medical exemptions here? So either of you can chime in here. I think that'd be great. There's a lot of questions on that Facebook thread on that.
Yeah, I think I should probably take that question, Patrick, if you're okay with it. When we're talking about medical exemptions, now the first thing you have to understand is, and I'm going to talk kind of statewide globally, and then I'm going to kind of zoom down. I'm a practicing chiropractor in the state of California, so this is something that I see every single day with my patients that walk in that are asking, but what can I do about getting a medical exemption or a personal belief exemption or religious exemption? So the first thing I would suggest for all of you that are out there is you need to check your state and or country laws. Every state in California has different laws that pertain to this. In some states, like in Dr. Gentempo's state of Utah, you can have and file what they call a personal belief exemption, which basically says that it's my personal belief that vaccinations may cause some sort of harm to my child. The requirements for that is that you must sit down with your doctor, your pediatrician, your medical doctor, have a conversation about that. They give you a piece of paper, you fill that out, and then you would give that original document, it must be original document, to the school, and they would file that away. Now, unfortunately, in states like Mississippi, West Virginia, and this year, California, the only way to be exempt from vaccinations is to have what they call a medical exemption. Now, a lot of people are asking me, Beau, how do I obtain a medical exemption? What needs to be done? So I'm going to quickly, as best I can, kind of go through some of the steps to tell you the different ways to do this. Now, I will say this. We have gone into so much detail into our gold package that's there. You'll see that we've actually created a playbook. We have, I think it's over 75 different links to different authors and contributors that are out in the blogosphere world that have done an amazing job of this. If you're interested, I would highly recommend you check that out, as well as Sayer G with Green Med Info has given us his vaccine compendium. It's 375 pages of research, because I know a lot of people are asking me, where's the research? Where are the studies that are in Vaccines Revealed? Well, part of those studies are in the 375 pages that he's laid out. So let's dive down a little bit. Let's talk about what it takes to get a medical exemption and what I suggest my patients do. The first thing that I tell all of my patients to do is to go and to reference the CDC website and pull up the full amount of vaccinations from birth all the way to the date that they are in school. Currently, 69 doses of vaccination, and it looks like it's going to go up in the next year from that. Then what you need to do is you need to print out all of the inserts for each one of those vaccinations. There's a lot of links inside the playbook. If not, go online. The NVIC, National Vaccine Institute, they have an amazing resource where you can go and you can download all of the ingredients. Why do I tell you to do that? The reason is not that you look at those and you say, oh my gosh, these are harmful, which they are. But what the reason is to look and to find out what interactions or what allergies that you or your child may have to the ingredients inside those vaccinations. Now, people are going to say, well, isn't mercury and aluminum? Yes, you're absolutely correct. You need to note all of that. People ask me all the time, Beau, should I have genetic testing? Should I do allergy testing? And here's what I tell them. I tell them this. I tell them the first and most important thing that you need to do is you need to sit down and really dissect your entire medical history between you and your spouse, and also down both legacies, both arms, I would so to speak, of that. And here's why. When you sit down with a doctor and ask them for a medical exemption, your tone, your emotion does not matter. I'll be flat out with you guys. Doctors think in black and white. Like I said earlier, that is the way that we are trained. That's the way that we are report. So the doctor has to have sufficient information from your medical history to write in a report that they would deem necessary for you to be exempt from vaccinations. Now, there is a whole list of things. The thing that I've talked to probably 100 different medical doctors, and I said, what are you looking for with doing a medical exemption? And most commonly, what they want is this. They want 4 different people in your family with qualifying disease or conditions to qualify. Meaning you can't just have one. You've got to have 4 people in your family history to qualify for this medical exemption. The next question naturally would be, well, what do those 4 people have to have? Now I'm going to kind of run down these quickly, so please take some notes. Again, this is all in the playbook for you guys if you want to check out. The first one is a hyperimmune condition. So this is asthma, allergies to certain foods, certain bee stings, medicines, hives, swelling, eczema, hives, those types of hyperimmune conditions. The second one would include autoimmune conditions, celiacs, Crohn's, lupus, mixed connective tissue disorders, vitiligo, psoriasis, multiple sclerosis, Wegener's, rheumatoid arthritis, type 1 diabetes, those types of autoimmune conditions. So if you're listening right now and you're watching this, what you need to do is get out a piece of paper and start to dissect your family history. Now, as you're dissecting this, you want to be able to pull those records of all of those individuals together and give your doctor a very clear and precise snapshot of your family history when you turn this over. The worst thing that you can do is sit in his office and say, I don't think she should have the exemptions. And the doctor may even say, I agree with you, but the law states that your child must be fully vaccinated to enter school. And the only way that I can write a medical exemption is for you to meet this criteria. So I hope you understand it. They try to make this very unemotional and that you have to follow the rules step by step. So you have hyperimmune conditions, autoimmune conditions, immune cancers like lymphoma, leukemia, and then immune deficiencies. Stuff, you know, those types of conditions in yourself. Also, any sort of vaccine reaction that you have had with your child. So potentially you've taken your child to have their vaccinations and they've had some sort of reaction. You need to take pictures. It needs to be documented. It needs to be reported, and all of that has to be brought together. Now also, not only you, but potentially your mother, your father, or yourself. I've had quite a few patients that have come to me and said, Beau, I'm so scared of vaccinating my little baby who's now a year with the flu shot because when I was vaccinated, I broke out, I had hives. Is this going to happen to my child? And you have to really say, I don't know. As a doctor, they're going to say, I don't know. But is it documented? Was that taken to their doctor? So any and all of that information must be compiled together. Now, I do want to speak to something else. You have to understand that there are certain non-qualifying diseases. In the CDC world, they do not recognize autism as a disqualification factor for future vaccinations. Remember, they do not believe that it causes autism. There may be a link in their minds, but it is not a ruling out factor. Neither is Asperger's or behavioral issues or ADD or ADHD or any sort of chronic fatigue. Matter of fact, not even rheumatoid arthritis is considered a disqualifying factor. So what you need to do is to take a complete medical history, brothers, sisters, aunties, uncles, grandmas, cousins, all of that, and lay it all out for you. Last thing that people ask me is, Beau, do I need to do some sort of genetic testing? And for that, I would say you may think about it. If you don't feel that your argument when you sit down with your doctor is strong enough based upon your family history alone, I think you should maybe look at doing like an ELISA test, an enzyme-linked immunoassay that measures the antibodies that are present in the blood to test for reactions to things like mercury or aluminum or polysorbate 80. Any and all information that you can provide to your doctor, that is what they're looking for. Some people have been going down the path of using 23andMe or neurogenomic testing. There's another website called Genetic Engine where you can go and take a deeper dive into your genetics. The more information that you can provide for your doctor, I believe it is the better. As a practicing physician myself, when a person comes in with some sort of complaint, the history is almost more important than the actual examination. So by your job parents right now, your job people, is to provide the adequate history for your case so they can make a decision that is best for you and your family. Patrick?
Terrific. Beau basically put together and edited the manual that we have, the playbook we have on vaccine exemption. So again, if you, I think it's included with all the packages as a download, if I'm not mistaken. So if you got Vaccines Revealed, it's there for you. And if you didn't get it and you want to, own Vaccines Revealed, there's the yellow button underneath the viewing screen here that you can click, and it will give you more information on that. So listen, we've had an enormous spike in our amount of viewers. So there's multiple thousands out there now. Welcome everybody. I'm coming to you from Australia right now. My name is Patrick Gentempo, and I am in my hotel room in Sydney, Australia right now. It's a big holiday in Australia actually today. So I'm here. I've got some programs I'm doing for other Australian doctors, some chiropractors this weekend, and which is why I'm here in part. And looking forward to being with the community here. I know how oppressive the vaccine situation is in Australia. Mo, you need to mute, please. Oh, you still got it. Hold on. So anyway, there we go. It keeps coming off you. There you go. We're getting feedback. There we go. So so couple things. I know our servers. It wasn't our servers, but our email broadcasting system servers. They crashed, which is why the emails went out late. I just got a message about that. So again, is it coincidence or somebody after us? I don't know about this one, but bottom line is that we apologize for the people who got their links late and had to join us late, which is thousands of you by the numbers I can see here. Many of you have been here since the beginning. But to answer just quickly, this is being recorded right now. And after we are done, as soon as we click end and we're done, you just come right back to this page and you can click on the video box and it will play from the beginning again. So you can, if this is recorded on YouTube, you can go back and as often as you like, you can rewatch. So for the people who unfortunately got their emails late, you can join us or you can review later. We're thrilled that you're here with us now. We apologize that there was that technical issue. And I'm letting this run later than we initially anticipated so we can get in questions and comments from more people. But welcome everybody. The Vaccines Revealed movement is certainly gaining ground, gaining momentum, gaining power as we speak. There's more and more people joining, more and more people who are getting and owning Vaccines Revealed, more and more people who are commenting. It is pretty spectacular to see how the world is showing up right now for this movement, this initiative. We're thrilled to be here with you. And as I said, you'll be able to share this link. It's going to be an open public link. So this conversation we're having now can be shared with anybody. It's going to be open access, etc. So welcome, and maybe with that, Krista, you have some more people to welcome and we can take some more questions and comments.
All right, great. Yeah, definitely a lot more people to welcome. I'm actually having a little bit of issues. I'm not able to respond back to you, thanking you for your questions, but I see them coming through. It's locked me out, so I can't respond back to you right now. But we'll welcome Dr. Pam Smith joining us, Dr. Randy Boussier, we have Debbie Norris, we have Scooter Bell, we have Cynthia Shepard out of Guatemala, we have Jen Catone, DC, joining us out of Augusta, Maine. We have Moira joining us. We also want to welcome Dr. Manders out of Saskatchewan, Canada. We'll welcome Lisa Templeton joining us, and we'll welcome also Dr. Sandra Beebe. So plenty more. I could keep going on for the next 15 minutes and still not get everybody. So thank you for checking in and posting your questions out there. We have so many questions and comments. In fact, I don't know how we're going to even begin to scratch the surface here tonight, but I'm going to do my best. So one that came through was—
We will likely, just so I could cut it there, we will likely hold another event in the future. I can't say when, et cetera, but I am looking at, I'm positively blown away. Thousands of people are on with us right now. I know there's a lot of questions and comments, and this, now, even though we've gone through the cycle of presenting Vaccines Revealed, I think there's some more stuff for you through the end of this week, to engage in. Bottom line is this community is going to live on until we accomplish our goal, which is individual rights to choose whether or not they want to vaccinate. And if somebody chooses they want to vaccinate, that's up to them. But we want the lies gone. We want the people who have been lying held accountable for those lies so that it never happens again. And we want everybody's inalienable rights to choose what substances are put in their bodies, and that governments should not have the right to force anybody to do anything that's potentially risky to themselves or their children. So we've got a lot of work in front of us, but now we have an assembly, a community of people who are driven and motivated to know the truth and to change things in an activist way so that we are not subject to a tyrannical system that injures and kills children. You talk about baby killers, don't get me started. I'll rant for them, for the next hour. But ultimately, we are thrilled to be with you, and I can tell you that this community, we're going to have ongoing interactions with this community, alerts, new things that we find out, messages, etc. And we'll do everything we can to support you. So I just wanted to say that while everybody was here and watching. So what do we have next for a comment or a question, Kristen?
I'm going to jump to a question that comes from Jeff Arnell out of Orange, Connecticut. He says, thank you for everything you've done and will do with this project. My question is there a plan in place to some way, somehow get this in front of the people who make laws, specifically those who require kids to get vaccines to enter the school system? Parents robotically do what they're told by MDs and the schools. To have them fight the bureaucracy against the MDs and lawyers to get the kids in school vaccine-free on their own will be a losing battle, I think.
Well, the answer is yes. On the very highest levels, I'm pausing and looking up in the sky because I have to figure out what I'm allowed to talk about, what I'm allowed to. Let me just put it this way, so I don't say anything that I'm not supposed to, or reveal, no pun intended, but reveal something I'm not supposed to right now. But let's just say that some very influential people who, in the legislative side and the executive branches of government, have been looking at Vaccines Revealed. They want more information from Vaccines Revealed, and that we have, lack of a better term, infiltrated those ranks, I think, in a very powerful way, and will continue to do so. And especially when we have people throughout the world that are engaged in this and are part of the community. There's an old saying, the power of the pack is in the wolf, and the power of the wolf is in the pack. So to me, this Vaccines Revealed body of people who've engaged in it, we're a wolf pack. And I got to tell you, we're very driven collectively to make a change, because this is an experiment, a malicious experiment that is unprecedented in the history of governments around the world, that our people and our children are experimented on in this heinous way, and that parents' rights are being restricted. What drives me is when I'm motivated. For example, when I talk to a mother we have more things we haven't released yet. We want to do a debate. We want to take these people who are pro-vaccines, who are trying to pass legislation, and have other experts, and have it literally a live debate in a forum like this, where we'll let them go at each other. I'll tell you, I'm gonna call them out. I've got no gumption about doing this. I want to call out Richard Pan, for example, Paul Offit, these people who are advocating. Richard Pan in California, the senator who's trying to push through SB 277, championed that. Now SB 18, that they're trying to get through over there. I'm going to say, you know what? You're confident in your position? Why don't you have a public debate? It'll be a very well-structured, controlled debate, not just a Jerry Springer, shout fest, but literally a structured debate. And let's see if you're willing to speak in front of the public and argue for your position against other people who have an opposing position. Let's call you out on that debate. And if they won't show up, I'm going to let everybody know about the fact that they were invited to the debate, but they don't show up. And if they're unwilling to show up, what does that tell you? Because if you believe in it, and you believe you're right, and you have nothing to hide, then why? And you believe that you want people to get your message, because it's the right message for them to have. How do you not show up? How do you go run and hide in the corner and say, no, I won't come and debate? So there's going to be, keep tuning in with us, stay on our list. There'll be a debate in the future that we'll be inviting you to view, and I can't wait for that. Many other things that we have planned up our sleeves. This mother I want to interview her, who's in Houston, didn't vaccinate her 2-year-old child. The mother and father separate. The father then goes to Child Services and says that the mother won't vaccinate the kid. Child Services comes and takes the kid from the mother, never been away from the mother, force vaccinates the kid to get her caught up, and now the kid is severely vaccine damaged. Can you imagine the outrage? Your child is ripped out of your arms, screaming and crying, and then they do something to her, a forced medical procedure, and they give, and then she comes back to you brain damaged. It is unspeakable. So we can't sit idly by while this type of thing is going on, and our numbers just have to grow strong enough, and we just have to have the right influence in the right places. Something I'm very good at, the strategy relative to those things, and we're going to change this. I mean, it has to be changed. I'm at a point in my life where I can no longer just talk about it, but I have to take an action on it. And your numbers, your being here with us is going to help. So I'm just going to say, stay a part of this community. Stay a part of this tribe. Activate. Just making your comments makes a difference. And then, of course, we made this available for you to own. You don't have to, all you have to do is say, I disagree. 2 words, I disagree when it comes to this vaccine issue. And you can let the Vaccines Revealed 9, or now with the bonus, 10 episodes, do all the talking for you. You can let the compendium of research, which is what, 250 pages, Beau, the research compendium?
375 pages.
Sorry, underestimated.
Yeah.
In the package, one of the bonuses we're giving you is a compendium of scientific research relative to vaccines, supporting all the things we're saying. 375 pages. Wouldn't you just like to have that asset and say, hey, look through this and then tell me that I'm crazy, that I'm a baby killer? Who's the baby killer here? And we can go on and on, but we're here as a very active, very powerful, very mission-driven resource to correct something that I find to be one of the biggest wrongs that exists in the world, especially when you're going after innocent children in the so-called, for their own benefit and welfare, and that the state knows better than a parent when it comes to taking care of their children. The implications are beyond just the vaccine issue. It has to do with human rights. It has to do with parental rights. It has to do with your right to exist as an individual on planet Earth. So this is a fight, and it's a fight that I know that the Vaccines Revealed team is up to, and we're not going to ever back down from this fight. As a matter of fact, this community has just given us the resources to take it to the next level, and I can't wait to do that. I mean, I am pissed off. I'm angry. I feel like every minute that we're working on this, we're saving kids, and I believe that that we cannot tolerate this level of injustice, especially when the innocent victims are mostly children, as a byproduct of what's going on in the world. So I am grateful and appreciative that you're all here to support it, and I want to let you know that we're redoubling our commitment in our efforts to serve this mission. So hopefully that answers the question maybe a little bit more than what you were asking for.
All right, thank you. I'll take a moment. Welcome Lynn Henley joining us, also along with Claire Middle. We'll also welcome Susan LaPlante out of Smithtown, New York, Carmen Snyder out of Orlando, Florida, Praveen Saxena. We have Alicia Holiday joining us, and Ruth Ann Raya. Thank you all for checking in and being here with us. One of the questions that was posted is, I would like to request some kind of forum is set up where we can continue to discuss this vaccines issue and keep this great comment thread available. Is this going to be available for us?
Well, ask and you shall receive. Yes, I think that we should continue this forum. I would like to see regularly scheduled live events just like this. And incidentally, it doesn't have to be just me or just Dr. Pierce, but all the heroes, if you will, of the Vaccine Revealed series, we'll have them as guests. We'll bring them. I know they'll all love to come on, share, interact with you, share their message. And that way we can be focused on our topics. I mean, right now, obviously, we're in a little bit of a free-for-all saying, hey, ask anything you want, any comments. But if we bring in researchers for the Gardasil vaccine, chickenpox vaccine, flu vaccines, MMR, et cetera, now we can focus in specific areas. You get specific questions. I know that Brian Hooker, would come on, say, or gee, all the people that you saw, they'd be thrilled to share their wisdom with this audience. So you do have that to look forward to. You definitely, so I'll just say, stay on our list. get our emails. We'll be sending out all kinds of information that we think should be put in front of you based on your interest in in being in this community. But this community is going to not disband. This community is going to get more cohesive, and it's going to grow, and that is our vision for it. So yeah, we'll be doing more.
All right, great. I'll welcome Dr. James Owens checking in out of Georgetown, South Carolina. We'll welcome Alice Becker out of Roswell, Georgia. We'll also welcome Tierra Weiss. We'll also welcome Lydia Lakey and let's see here, Rebecca Norris as well. So thank you. I'm just going to kind of pepper those in as we go along. A question that came from Ohio Vaccine Freedom says, was there anything that you, Patrick, or Dr. Beau learned from this series, and what was the biggest shocker for you, if anything?
I'll go first on this one, Patrick, if you don't mind. To be honest, the most shocking thing for me was the amount of, I don't know if you would call it liability or opportunistic that the CDC has. I was blown away that the CDC owns actual patents on the vaccinations that are being injected into our kids these days. I want to just echo a little bit more and say, Patrick, you said the CDC is supposed to be an independent agency, a place that is looked as an impartial, where they are supposed to take research in. And that's the whole point of doing research, is to get some sort of results and then to not only report on those, but to do it truthfully. And then we find out that the CDC actually benefits, and not benefits smallly. We're talking billions and billions of dollars every single year. That is what floored me the most. The second thing is when Robert Kennedy Jr. mentioned Paul Offit having to do with his rotavirus, which has been proven to be pretty much ineffective, and then he turned around and sold it to the CDC. I think it was for something like $26 million. And now he is one of the spokespeople.
It was much more than that. The 26 million was his cut.
Yeah, that was only his cut. And then we take one deeper dive, and this really pertains to me here in California. Senator Pan, the person that is writing SB 277 and SB 18, we look inside his coffers, and his biggest donors are the pharmaceutical companies. So if somebody's writing you a check, do you think you might be a little biased to maybe rally some of your friends to vote for this and not even necessarily even take a look at the research, or not to take a look at the research at such a high level? I mean, I am absolutely blown away, and I've heard it forever. It's all about the money. Follow the money. Follow the money. I remember Dr. Brian Stensler got in trouble for saying that when he was debating Senator Pan, the president for the California Chiropractic Association. And it's the truth. All you guys have to do is follow the money, and look where it leads. Where does it lead? It leads to William Thompson on the floor being told to shred the documents that is showing that the rate of autism is directly linked, people. I mean, it's really very, very, very simple. I'm sorry, I'm getting fired up about it too, Patrick, over here, but it's so cut and dry. And that's what we want people to understand. Just reveal the truth. And that's why we call it Vaccines Revealed, because we feel like we needed to reveal what's going on. But when I heard those stats come through, I was really floored. In addition, when Patrick and me will talk about this some more, but it had to do with the triple shot of MMR and having to do with the liability that the federal government would have to foot the bill if they went back and actually agreed with Dr. Wakefield on his research. I remember when me and you were sitting in Park City and we were watching the movie Vax together, and you turned to me and you said, "Beau, oh my God, can you believe this has happened? No wonder they wanted to ruin his career." And that's when literally the top was ripped off of me, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so true. It's so true. It's always all about the money. So that's probably mine. Patrick, yours?
In kind, I think it's very similar. What was staggering to me, literally jaw-dropping, was the depth of the level of fraud, corruption, and deception. I knew there was some of that going on. I had no idea through the process how deep and how vile it was. I used to think, okay, there's some politicians that are motivated, and the pharmaceutical industry has the strongest lobby in Washington, D.C. That stuff I knew about, and it's kind of you figure people are going to be partial. They're going to try to force a bit of an agenda. That stuff is not new to me. But when I looked at the depth of the fraud and the malfeasance, especially at the CDC, and how documented it was, it's not speculative, it's documented. That was, to me, like, so chilling. And in our conversation with Robert Kennedy Jr. in that episode where I interviewed him, he described, and this is, you say, what was the most surprising or shocking thing? He described, and this, to me, I think, when you take the step back and you look at the big picture, this is the thing that you have to, like, reflect upon. I think that they'll reflect upon 100, 200 years from now, when they're looking back in history and saying, oh my God, I cannot believe that this happened in the world. That people in the world actually did this. It's going to seem barbaric. It's going to seem unfathomable that this happened. So what happened, when I was talking to Robert Kennedy, and he was telling me about the off-site meeting that happened. If you haven't seen that episode, you got to see that episode. I think we're replaying it right now. I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact schedule off the top of my head. But he said that the CDC scientists, I believe, from the Institutes of Science and other places, decided to have an off-site meeting to convene on this data that they were finding, showing surprising adverse effects of vaccines. And they went off-site. Why did they go off-site? Because they thought, and they were wrong, but they thought by going off-site that whatever transpired at the meeting would not be discoverable through freedom of information, but it has been discovered. And what happened, these scientists who want to do good in the world, they are smart people that went to prestigious institutions and worked very hard academically to become scientists that can work on a thing that was hopefully going to help humanity. But they found themselves trapped because the thing they were working on, they found out, was hurting people, injuring people. They decided we need to go off-site and have a conversation about this. And when you look at the logs from the conversations, what they found is that in the beginning, several of the scientists said, we have to go public with this. People have to know. Kids are being damaged and injured right now. We can't hide this. And that was the prevailing thing, saying, hey, our intentions were good, but we're looking at our data and we can see that what we intended and what's happening is not the same thing. We gotta come clean, was literally the language they were using. And people say, let's calm down, and let's talk about it some more. And little by little, through the course of the weekend or the days that they were there, they convinced themselves that they needed to hide the truth and that it was for the good of humanity. They literally somehow reconciled in some kind of a sick psychological transition that to lie about what's going on would be the greater good position to take, that if we let people know the truth, that it would be more damaging. The lesser evil was to lie. Now, do I have to even explain from a moralistic standpoint how obscene that is? It is beyond comprehension, but it's not without historical precedence. The whole concussion scandal was the same kind of thing. There's been cover-ups where groups of people who know the truth and think that the truth needs to be told slowly but surely start to fall into this psychological trick that they play on themselves collectively to think that they're being good or ethical by hiding the truth. My own adage on this is that the truth is only a problem for those who oppose it. So the reality is the truth is the truth, and the truth needs to be known, especially when it comes to procedures that put my kids at risk. That's not the ethics they have. But when I look at how deep it goes, the depth of the fraud, corruption, I'd known, okay, William Thompson, the recordings that Brian Hooker has of William Thompson lying to the CDC, I mean, lying about, the CDC lying about their results on their vaccine study with MMR and other such things. Ticks and mercury, and other vaccines, et cetera. I mean, it goes on. That is all horror, and I was aware of it, but it goes deeper than I ever thought it, that it was even possible. I can't even make myself think that in such a vile, malicious, and evil way. I would not believe, because I would be thinking to myself, if I didn't know better, if I haven't seen the documentation, if I hadn't heard the conversations with my own ears, I would think there could never be scientists that could be this evil, that would hide this truth. I mean, it would be beyond my own comprehension that people could be this corrupt in our government institutions. Well, I know that this is corruption, but not this level. How do you go to bed and sleep at night, put your head on a pillow, knowing that you're hiding ugly truths that every single day are damaging kids? You know this and you live with this and you don't say something? That's my outrage. So when I saw through this journey that I've taken personally in Vaccines Revealed, the depth of human depravity, that people for obscene agendas will allow children every single day, masses of children, to be exposed to something through a lie. That to me is sickening beyond any words I have to even communicate with you. So so that's my answer is I had no idea and could not have believed how ugly it really is, this depth of fraud and corruption around this issue. Okay. So that was a question that hit my hot button. We probably have time only right now for maybe another question or comment. And we did run over. Thank you, everybody who showed up. We're sorry that we started late, but we ran over, hopefully to accommodate that. The whole thing is recorded, and we will have future opportunities for more of these.
All right, well, rather than get to some questions, I'm going to try to wrap up by welcoming Julie Nichols joining us. She says, I wept through some of these episodes. We'll welcome Kathy Zodro joining us. She said, follow the money. It's true. It's real. It's the real reason the healthcare workers get the flu vaccination. We have Joy Lee saying, we're listening from upstate New York. Thank you for spreading the truth. My youngest boy is vaccine injured and has epilepsy and autism as a result, both idiopathic, but we know the truth. We'll welcome Jules Cleveland joining us. She says, so glad you're getting this out. We'll welcome Robin Lecomte, I hope I said that correctly, who just got the...
Can I just say something about that one comment, Chris?
Sure.
Yeah.
My heart goes out
when
you have a child who's vaccine damaged, and how when you sit there with a child who, your whole hopes and dreams and vision for a family and what that's going to be is suddenly now permanently altered because of vaccines being vaccine damaged. And the outrage that the doctors come back and say, oh, it's idiopathic, meaning meaning they're idiots. No, it means that they don't know what caused it. Idiopathic is kind of the right terminology maybe to be using relative to this, to try to say that to a mother who can see a child and know how that child experiences life, interacts, what kind of verbal skills they have, etc., to see the vaccines introduced, to see the child regress, to see seizures that occur, to see the autism spectrum emerge, and then have the insult of somebody in a position of authority saying, oh no, that's just idiopathic. We don't know that vaccines cause that. It is disgusting, shockingly disgusting. Talk about adding insult to injury. To me, it's an intolerable outrage. So I feel for you. I appreciate you sharing that comment. I hope you find some level of comfort in this community, that there's many others in this community, thousands of others, tens of thousands of others, who are going through exactly what you're going through, have experienced exactly what you're experiencing, and many others who are in solidarity with you, who maybe don't have a vaccine damaged kid. My kids are unvaccinated. But I stand in solidarity with you and with everybody else who sees a wrong in the world that needs to be righted, which is this thing called forced vaccination, which is called lies and deception around the truth, that vaccines are risky, they hurt people, and they have to admit to it. So there's you know, I literally, I felt it in my gut when Krista read your statement, and I felt like I needed to just say that. I'll also let everybody know, just as we're tying up here. First of all, if you bought Vaccines Revealed, thank you. Thank you for owning it, and thanks for supporting this mission. Secondly, there's a button underneath me here that I think it's yellow, that you can still own it. We're offering 50% off on Vaccines Revealed for you to own it while we're still here. I think it's going to end this week. I'm not saying that as sales and trying to pressure you. I just want you to know that I think it's probably Friday night. I think Friday night Pacific time, something like that. That midnight, that you know, that half price offer is going to be in existence while we're still in this cycle here. So if you're going to do it, now's the time to do it for sure. And even if you don't, I'm really hoping that this was meaningful to you and still stay a part of this community. We need the numbers to be able to make the change in the world that we want to see.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I just want to say one more thing. This to us is not a project. This to us is a mission. You know, we believe as chiropractors that healing happens from above down, inside out. It does not happen from outside in by injecting things into our body that we do not want injected into our body. That's the way that we are trained. That is the philosophy that we hold. And we interlock our arms with every one of the people that are watching right now. And I share my sentiments with Patrick. Literally, when we were being attacked, when we were staying up all night, the hundreds of thousands of hours that went into this documentary, it's stories like that. It's emails, it's Facebook messages of, hey, thank you. I finally have found my community. I have found others that are like me. This story needed to be told. Where have you been? Where have you been? Thank you, Lord, for you telling me this story. I pleaded to try to find someone as I was going to take my child back to the pediatrician tomorrow because they told me that he needed 6 immunizations and he already had a reaction. I had nothing to come back to the pediatrician with. Thank you, thank you. Those are the stories that propel us day in and day out. And I know you guys that are watching this can see the extreme emotion that myself and Dr. Gentempo are pouring into this, because this is nothing more than a mission of our lives. We've dedicated our lives to serving people. That's what a doctor does. And we want to say thank you. Thank you for joining the mission. Thank you for joining the movement, and we are not going anywhere. We are going to be here with you, upholding you, and helping to guide you along your path through life.
So I think with that, we're at 1:40 now in our hour-long event here. So I just want to, in tying up, first of all, let me say thank you, Krista, for so much for organizing and keeping everything running on time and smoothly and so on, like you always do. So thank you for that. And for all of you who have joined, you know, all we could say, myself, you know, Dr. Beau, Jeff Hayes, and everybody else who's put their time, you know, and efforts into this. We had a great team of very dedicated people working around the clock to serve this up. And we are just literally in the beginning phases of something. And I got to tell you that we are not backing down. We're going to get this right. We're going to make this right. We have to do something to change the course that we're on. And this is something that, again, I'll repeat, it's bigger than us. It's about our children. It's about our rights as individuals. It's about our rights as parents. And I think that the stars have aligned in such a way right now in the world that we can finally change this and make it right. So please have other people come join this community. Make sure you like the Vaccines Revealed Facebook page. That's where a big part of our communications come from. Stay on our list, our mailing list. We'll be mailing you stuff, you know, and you'll be knowing what the goings on are, what events we're having. We already have, because of what we've been doing, a lot of new content, new experts, other things, people that we can bring more content information to you beyond what we already have. And it's growing every single day because of the gravity that we created pulling toward Vaccines Revealed to, as far as this whole initiative is concerned. There's people coming out from everywhere saying, I want to help. I have more information, I have more expertise, etc. So this is going to be a growing thing. And as I said, the power of the wolf is in the pack. So this pack, this wolf pack called Vaccines Revealed, is going to be here. It's going to be a force to be reckoned with, and we're going to make things right that are very wrong right now. So with Krista, with Dr. Beau Pierce, and Dr. Patrick Gentempo, I'm happy to be coming to you from Sydney, Australia today. And I look forward to our ongoing conversations. Thank you all for being here. And again, if you want to own Vaccines Revealed, just hit the button. There's multiple different packages. Choose the one that's right for you and help support the mission. Thank you very much, everybody. Take care.
Thank you, guys.